Everyone out there, Dan here from GeekCast Radio, doing another comic book review. This time I'm continuing my look at Hotland Special with review of Hotland Special number 2. And I'll just say this, I adore this series. It's quickly on the tops of my best series out there right now. If I were to quickly rank off my top 5 books, only 2 issues in, it is right there. And it's not that it's, I would say, doing anything super remarkable that I've never seen before. It's just such a well-functioned and well-told story. And it continues after issue number 2. And what the story is about, it's this Midwestern family drama. It's like Godfather meets Fargo in a way, where you have this Midwestern family that their grandfather grew up and established this deli that is connected to some notorious, rather unseemly figures, and because of certain things that are going on, bad things are beginning to happen, things are beginning to unravel, and we see this family has a lot of deep and dark secrets. Some of those secrets are starting to bubble up and really impact people that had no idea, innocent bystanders in a way. And first, I think what this book does really well is that it's building a lot of strong characters in a very short amount of time. I will say the one thing that I would take away is that there are a lot of these different, family members that I'm in some ways kind of confusing with one another, because there's different brothers and sisters, and I'm trying to figure out who's who. But outside of that, I feel like there's a lot going on here. I love, like, for example, to go back to the first page, there is these hitmen, and if it does, I keep connecting it to Coen Brothers, but I almost can't stop doing that. Is that, like, these little hitmen have these different little quirks. You see the hitman with the metal hand, but that's not just it. He also eats pancakes without syrup. And that, it just, to me, it's those little tiny things. Like, it's a little quirk that doesn't necessarily mean much on its own, but you kind of just add up these pieces, and by the end of it, it's like you have a very fantastic piece of work here. And I like they're kind of bumbling, but not super bumbling to the point where they're just comedic relief. And obviously very effective. And there's also some emotional beats in this too, and I think that's what it does really well, is it handles this tone, that it's always kind of in the middle, where it's never too dark and depressing, it's never too comedic, it's always like kind of someplace in between. In the art by Jorge Frenez, it's just well paced, well structured. He's just got some interesting page layout, which is what really tends to catch my eye. Just even looking at this, just the panel design, it's all over the place, but it's really effective in telling the story, and kind of keeping you guessing, keeping the pace moving. Uses a lot of single panels. It kind of reminds me, not specifically, it doesn't use as many panels as someone like David Aja, but just the breaking of them, there is a bunch there, and there's a lot of dialogue on this page, but it moves so quickly you don't even notice it. I think, which allows the story to flow really well. And then there's pages like this, which I just think are phenomenal, where it's just the standing image of this after a character, and I don't want to give it away because I know maybe many haven't read the first issue. After a character dies, you see this family coming, and they're all kind of saying the condolences, and just the process of that bit by bit by bit. Just the awkwardness of it, just how it's balancing. I just thought that was a really effective way of doing that, and there's pages like that all over the place. Especially when you kind of juxtapose it between the mother and then the grandfather, and how they're handling the situation a little bit differently. But eventually, as things break down at the end, and then when you do have those more emotional moments, that the zoom in on his face, just to see that, and just to kind of step away for a moment. I thought it was just kind of, it knew when to hold on, and it knew when to kind of just go really quickly throughout moment to moment. Especially if you look at, like, this panel, for example. Just the emptiness of him in this room, it just, I think, represents a lot. It's this man who's kind of put in this situation, and the isolation he feels. Just there's no one there, and this, like, the breakdown that occurs. He obviously has this facade of who he is and what he's doing, but I think deep down there's something that's getting the crumble. And then there are some more of these comedic moments. I love this character. I think this is if this was ever made into a movie. Patrick Gleason, I think, would be like, he's just, I feel like that's who they use as a reference for him, because he, the guy from Calvary, he's been in a bunch of things. He just looks just like him. He has that energy that kind of take things over. And within this, there's you have a police officer trying to figure out what's happening as we have this shootout at this deli. Innocent people are dead. and how the town reacts to it, and it's kind of a repercussion issue compared to what issue 1 was, where issue 1 was a lot of exposition, a lot of setup, but it didn't feel that way, and it did a good job of kind of creating the characters, and it does so here as well. And then, which, if I were to kind of write down on a piece of paper all the different pieces that are going on, it would feel convoluted, but as you're reading through it doesn't have that. I just think this is a really remarkable story that I would highly pick up if you're a fan of the crime genre, if you like character pieces, especially if you like when there's an ensemble cast and it's full a lot of different people, and where everyone kind of gets their opportunity to shine. That's certainly the case here. So I'm loving this title more and more. I specifically did this video. I know I'm gushing about it, and anytime you talk this highly about a comic, all you're really doing is setting people up to be disappointed. But again, this is really what it just hitting for me. It hits all the pieces of storytelling I tend to really like, and the genres I tend to really like. So it's really appealing to me as well. But I also think it's just a really well done book, and I know a lot of people are speculators and like trying to pick up those books that might become a movie or TV show. I don't know if it will. I don't necessarily think it needs to be. I kind of like books just being themselves. I don't think a comic needs to be legitimized by being made into a movie. I think the benefit of it, though, obviously, is that creators get paid when that happens. But outside of that, if you just want a really good comic, there are a lot of big books that have just recently come out. This is, to me, on the top of the new books. Only 2 issues in. You can pick up your first issue either Comixology or a local comic book store. So I don't know how long the series is going. I think the first 4 or 5 issues have at least been solicited. I don't know if that's where it end. I hope we'll see. But I feel like this could be a really long going, at least 12 issue story, depending on where things go. But all right, well, that's it for me for this week. Just remember, comics are for everyone. The key is finding the right one. Until next time, thanks for watching.